When most people think of owning property in Greece, they picture white villas, infinity pools, and prices that immediately end the conversation. But tucked into the villages of Crete, something strange starts happening. You turn a corner and there's a stone house with thick walls, a private courtyard, shutters thrown open to mountain air, and the price isn't $800,000, it's 90, not a ruin. Not one of those listings where character means the roof collapsed 3 winters ago. Actual homes you could realistically buy, move into, and start living in. So I went through hundreds of listings to find 7 village homes that still feel like Greece before the postcards took over. And somewhere on this list is one property that has a feature almost nobody checks for when buying in Crete. But once you notice it, it completely changes which house actually gives you the best value. Starting with the one that made me stop scrolling and say, wait, this is only $90,000, Neapolis. It used to be the capital of the Lassithi prefecture, which means it has the bones of a real town. Banks, shops, a bus station, coffee on the square, restaurants that are open in January. That matters more than people think when you're buying in Greece. And sitting on a quiet lane off that square is a 2-story village house, 134 square meters of it, listed at 80,000 euros, $92,000. The exterior stops you immediately. 2 courtyards, a large terrace, space for a garage, and in a village where parking is genuinely a problem because the streets are too narrow for most cars. That last part is not a footnote, it's a competitive advantage. The front courtyard has a lemon tree in it, not a potted plant. A full lemon tree that apparently produces year-round. I know that sounds like a small thing. It isn't. Inside, the ground floor runs to about 38 square meters divided between a living room, a kitchen, and a cellar. And there's a door in the kitchen that takes you straight back out into the courtyard, which is exactly how these old houses are supposed to work. The right-hand ground floor space is another 40 square meters, currently a living room and bedroom combination, with its own access to the back courtyard. The listing describes the potential to convert the storage area on the left into a garage. That's a big deal here. The honest compromise, this is a renovation project. It is not move-in ready. The listing uses the phrase, potential to be renovated into a comfortable 2 to 3 bedroom house plus guest suite. And that's honest language for a house that needs work. The wooden staircase up to the 2 upper bedrooms is there, the structure is there, the bones are genuinely good, but budget for renovation costs on top of the purchase price. The kicker, and this one actually surprised me, is the light. Old village houses in Crete typically have small windows. If they have windows at all, this one has large windows front and back on every level. According to the listing, that's unusual, and having seen enough dark village houses to know what you're usually dealing with in this price bracket, I believe it. The upper bedrooms have terraces on both ends with village and countryside views. For 80,000 euros, $92,000, you're not buying a dark box. You're buying a framework for a real home. Property 2 is going to feel completely different from this one. And the reason why might not be what you expect. Before we get there, here's the thing. Nobody puts in the listing description when you're looking at a renovation property in rural Crete. Septic tanks. Old village houses often don't have a connection to a municipal sewage system. They run on a septic tank, and if that tank hasn't been inspected or serviced recently, you're looking at a cost that doesn't show up anywhere in the purchase price. In many parts of Crete, a full septic inspection runs somewhere in the 300 to 600 euro range, and if replacement is needed, you're looking at considerably more. Before you sign anything on a property like this, ask the agent directly, is there a septic tank? When was it last serviced? And what's the connection status for water and mains? That one question can save you a very expensive surprise. And this is exactly the kind of thing I want you to check before you fall in love with a house. That's why I created The Real Cost of Buying a Cheap House in Europe, a complete 180-page guide to help you understand what you're really paying before you make an offer. If you're serious about buying in Europe, this guide could save you thousands by helping you avoid the wrong property and the hidden costs most buyers miss. You can get it through the link in the description or just scan the QR code on screen. Don't buy the dream blind. Now, Vianos. The listing for this one opens with the word stunning, which I usually treat as a reason to look closer for what they're not saying. So let me tell you what they are saying. This is a 1-bedroom house in a mountain village, recently renovated in 2023 with a garden. 85,000 euros, $98,000. Here's what the listing doesn't lead with. Vianos sits at 550 meters altitude on the southern slopes of Dicte. The drive down to the coast isn't a stroll. The beaches of Cara de Campos and Castri are close, but they're not flat road close. The village itself has about 1,000 inhabitants. It is genuinely a village. I mean, we're not a town with amenities, not a place with a supermarket. The ancient plane tree on the central square, the old water mill, the churches with 14th century frescoes. Those are real and they're beautiful. but they are not a pharmacy. I'm not sure exactly how far the nearest pharmacy is from this specific address. The listing doesn't say, but given the altitude and the road structure here, it's probably worth checking before you fall in love with the frescoes. What the renovation gives you, and this is the part worth pausing on, is a house that was done properly in 2023, a garden, a peaceful village where the neighbors apparently feel like family, which is a phrase that usually sounds like marketing and in mountain Crete actually means something. The social fabric of these small inland villages is genuinely different from coastal resort areas. You will know your neighbors. That can be the whole point, or it can be a consideration depending on who you are. For 85,000 euros, $98,000, this is the most move-in ready option we've seen so far. The compromise is clear. It's small, it's remote by some definitions, and the road to anywhere else involves altitude. If that's your life, this might be exactly it. If you need to pop out for a coffee at a place that also has a supermarket and a bus station, Property One had that. These two places are genuinely different propositions. Let me stop for a second, because here's what I think a lot of people miss when they're watching these videos. We're not just looking at price tags, we're looking at trade-offs between two very different versions of life in Crete. One is about being rooted in a functioning town with actual infrastructure. The other is about altitude, silence, and an olive-growing community that hasn't changed much in decades. Neither is better, but they're not the same purchase. Keep that in your head as we go further, because the next few properties are going to test which version you actually want. Speaking of which, from Vianos, let's talk about what daily life actually looks like in the central and southern parts of the island. The nearest large town with supermarkets, a hospital, and proper services for most of these properties is either Heraklion, about an hour and a half to 2 hours for the more remote villages, or Agios Nikolaos, which is closer for the eastern properties, maybe 40 minutes. There is a health center in Spili, which is more accessible if you're in the Rethymno province area. One of the listings we'll get to in a minute is about 20 kilometers from it. The internet in these mountain villages is a real question. Fiber is not guaranteed. Some areas have decent ADSL, some are Starlink territory. The listing for one property specifically notes fast line internet available for connection. Worth asking about for the others before you decide. Life in these villages, on a good week, looks like coffee on a stone square, fresh olive oil that was pressed nearby, and a drive to the beach that takes 20 minutes. On a complicated week, the drive to the hospital matters. Both things are true. Milams, a mountain village, a fully restored 2-story stone house, 55 square meters, 1 bedroom, 87,000 euros, $100,000. The exterior is the reason this one is here. Traditional stone construction, wooden ceiling, wooden staircase, and it was restored in 2019, which means someone already did the work and did it carefully. The listing says the traditional elements were preserved, and based on the description, that appears to be true. Stone and wood throughout, a wood-burning stove in the bedroom, a roof terrace. The upper level is the living space. Open-plan kitchen and living room with 2 large windows, a bathroom, a small loft area, and access to the roof terrace. The lower level is the bedroom with its own independent entrance from a side alley, a built-in wardrobe, and the wood-burning stove. 2 independent entrances total, which gives this property flexibility as either a private home or a short-term rental, where the bedroom level has genuine separation from the living area. Solar hot water is already installed. Air conditioning is in. The hard infrastructure work has been done. The honest compromise? 55 square meters is small. This is a holiday home, a creative retreat, or a rental investment. It is probably not a full-time family home. And Milams is a mountain village, which carries all the same caveats we talked about with Vianos. The road down to the coast isn't immediate, but here's where the mid-video picture starts to shift. We've now seen 3 properties under $100,000. You're $92,000, $98,000, $100,000. And something interesting is happening. The renovation project gave us volume and a real town. The moved-in ready gave us a village and a garden. The restored stone house gives us craftsmanship and flexibility. The question that's starting to form, and I want you to hold it, is whether the most compelling value in this price bracket is actually about square footage at all, or whether it's about something else entirely. We'll come back to that. Timbaki, a different kind of entry, 87,000 euros, $101,000. And I want to be clear about what this town is, because the listing is honest. Timbaki is not a picturesque village. It's a working agricultural town in the Masara Plain, greenhouses, olive groves, a weekly Friday market, a church worth seeing, and a square worth sitting in. The buildings are mostly newer. It's not a place people photograph. It is a place people live. What you get for that price is a plot of 117 square meters with 2 buildings totaling 82 square meters. The main house has a kitchen, living room, and 1 bedroom. There is a separate room of about 22 square meters, currently set up as a guest room or office, which is genuinely useful if you want a workspace that isn't your living room. The courtyard is described as quiet and shaded, which in the Masara Plain in July is not a small thing. The property is listed as ready for immediate occupancy, and it's close to Kokinos Pyrgos Beach, a large sandy beach with shallow water, the kind of beach that works for families. The Minoan palaces of Phaistos and Agia Triada are also close. For buyers who want to actually live somewhere functional and be near the coast without paying coastal prices, Timbaki is a serious option that gets overlooked because it doesn't photograph well. That's the whole point. From there to the coast, Katsunari, a few kilometers from Ayurapetra, a first-floor apartment, 36 square meters, 1 bedroom, sea view, 87,500 euros, $101,000. The balcony is 15 square meters, big enough for a table, chairs, a barbecue, and a pergola, looking out over the village and the sea in the distance. The fireplace is in the living room, which is unusual for an apartment in this bracket and tells you something about how this was built, not as a quick holiday rental box, but as something someone actually wanted to use year-round. Built-in cupboards, air conditioning, a kitchen, a bathroom, the basics all present. Kutsunari Long Beach is a 20-minute walk. Ierapetra is 10 kilometers. Agios Nikolaos is 30 kilometers. Sitia Airport is 55 kilometers. The honest compromise, 36 square meters, is compact living. You know what you're getting, but the listing also mentions that the next-door apartment of the same size is available for purchase, meaning if you wanted to combine the two, you'd have a 72 square meter property with 2 balconies for what would presumably be a price somewhere in the 175,000 euro range. 2 apartments, waterfront village, Crete. That's a different calculation entirely. File that one away. Now we get into territory that changes the shape of everything we've looked at so far, because the last 2 properties on this list are playing a different game. Kria Vrisi, a double-story stone house, 150 square meters, a private courtyard, a balcony terrace with mountain and village views, 95,000 euros, $109,000. The entrance is through a private gate into a stone-paved courtyard. At the lower level, 2 rooms, a kitchen and dining room with a fireplace, an outdoor bathroom. At the upper level, 2 more rooms with balcony terraces and mountain and countryside views. You can access the upper level from inside via a wooden staircase or outside via a separate staircase up to the tiled terraces. There's also an outdoor storage room. The plot is 380 square meters. The total footprint is 150 square meters. The honest compromise, this property was restored in 1977 and requires further renovation and modernization. The listing uses the phrase, basic bathroom facilities. Electricity and water are available for connection, but not yet connected. The outdoor bathroom is a current reality, not a future plan. This is a project, and the listing is clear about that. What it is not, though, is a ruin. The structure is stone, the kitchen is described as functioning, the terraces are tiled, and the listing specifically notes fast-line internet available for connection. Agios Pavlos Beach is 15 kilometers. Agia Galini is 13 kilometers. The health center in Spili is about 20 kilometers. Rethymno town is 47 kilometers. Heraklion Airport is 85 kilometers. For 95,000 euros, $109,000, you're buying 150 square meters on 380 square meters of land with 4 rooms, a stone courtyard, mountain views, and a renovation project with a clear scope. Compared to everything we've looked at so far, this is the best canvas on the list if you're willing to do the work. And then there's Property 7. And this is where the anchor mystery from the beginning of this video finally gets its answer. Tourlati in eastern Crete, 25 kilometers from Sitia Airport, 5 kilometers from the nearest beach. A 2-bedroom house for 110,000 euros, $127,000. Central heating, a renovated kitchen, a living room with a fireplace, a large courtyard with possibilities for a garden or an entertainment area. One of the bedrooms has its own independent entrance from the courtyard. The dining room with its fireplace could be converted into a 3rd bedroom. The adjacent storage room could become a 2nd bathroom. Excellent access. Parking right outside. All of that is compelling on its own terms. But here's the detail I flagged in the opening and waited to tell you. Included in the price, independent of the house, completely separate, is an agricultural plot with 60 olive trees. 5 minutes from the village. Not a decorative garden. A working olive grove. In Crete, where olive oil is not just a food product, but a cultural institution and an income source, 60 olive trees is not a footnote. That's the reason. The trees produce, the oil gets sold or consumed or given to neighbors, or all 3. The people who buy this property aren't just buying a house in a Greek village. They're buying into a Cretan way of life in the most literal sense possible. Nobody talks about it in the headline. That's the detail that changes how you think about the other properties on this list. Because if you've been watching this as a comparison of price per square meter, you've been measuring the wrong thing. At 110,000 euros, $127,000, Torloti isn't just the most expensive property on this list. It might actually be the most complete one. So, who gets what? If you want a beach lifestyle and something you can move into without a project, the apartment in Kutsunari is the answer. 15 meters from your bed to a balcony looking at the sea. 20 minutes to a long, sandy beach. If you want a real town with infrastructure, bus service, banks, markets, and you're not afraid of renovation, the Neapolis house gives you volume, light, and 2 courtyards for 80,000 euros, $92,000. That's the best raw material on the list. If you want something that's already done, small, and could work as a rental, the Milam Stone House at 87,000 euros, $100,000 is the most considered renovation on the list. Someone put real thought into that restoration. And if you want the fullest version of life in Crete, the house, the land, the olive trees, the working out what to do with 60 trees worth of oil problem, Torloti is the one that'll stay with you. The honest verdict? 7 properties, all under $130,000, all in Crete, all real. The question isn't whether you can afford it. The question is which version of the island you're actually looking for. Drop a comment below. Are you the village renovation buyer or the move-in ready coastal buyer? I genuinely want to know because it changes where I look next. And if you want more lists like this, different islands, different countries, different price points, the subscribe button does what subscribe buttons do, and I'll keep finding the ones worth your time.